So the issue seems to be if you engage the carriage drive, then it seems to seat itself against that gear down in there. But when you go the other direction, those teeth there are supposed to engage, but this gear just doesn't want to like stay put. It's kind of rattling against it like that. It should be tight against it. And also just the fact that it's very loose on its bushing on the shaft is also concerning. So I guess the thing to do is just start going in here from the top down. So let me take this out first. It's not the easiest to see, but there's like a flange, kind of a washer thing, and it has these bendable tabs, and one of the tabs is bent over that collar. So I'm thinking if I bend that up, something might happen. Not forget that woodruff key. This arm that engages in here that pushes it one way or the other. There's a little dog point set screw that rides in that slot. And then on the bottom of this there's a nice beefy like ball detent. If it's set to the right tension, you can feel the detents, which is nice if it's set properly, and that's all fine. I thought maybe it was out of adjustment and that would have been enough. There's a circlip in there, retaining ring, and none of my circlip pliers they're not quite right. The lockout feature of this thing pushing against that now is keeping that gear from, translating the one way or the other, so that it won't engage either one of those other face gears. But if you pull and push really hard because you don't realize that the half nuts, maybe I'm the person doing that over the last 5 or 10 years, but that's where you get that looseness and the wallowing out of that that gear inside there on the shaft. So okay, that's not good. Or maybe it is good. Wow. And there it comes out. Okay, the pliers are falling apart. Okay, it just came out. Oh, that's not coming out. Nope, it's not until it gets past that gear. Maybe I'll take this out, and then maybe things can come up out. But I kind of feel like this is going to have to come out, this gear. Oh, that came out easily enough. Okay, that's definitely another snap ring. whatever these gears have been doing, they are not worn out, at least not inside. I never liked the look of this thing. An ancient gasket. All right. You know what's funny is that somehow I thought that this shaft here, the one that's there, would resolve somehow on the back inside this box, but oh, and there's a set screw there. Look at that. Let's see if we go after that. It's leaning more and more towards kind of a general overhaul. Maybe that this whole clutch section doesn't have to be disassembled. I can just tap this out. Yep. Oh, thank God. It has to be for it's slipping. There's a washer on this side of it too. So now we can take this out. If this whole thing comes out, then there's the circlip. And this comes out. And then this comes out. This goes like this, I think. This goes here. This goes here. There's some washers and circlips in there. This is the, yeah, this is the one that's wobbly. But that still doesn't explain why it wasn't engaging. Right now, I think, given how much wear there is on this, I'm going to press this out. I'd like to rebush at least this one. So, do a little measuring and thinking. But this is kind of slowing everything down in the shop. But I'd like to get this squared away and cleaned up. This thing is filthy in here. Not filthy, but it's... I'd like to see it kind of redone. Well, there aren't a lot of mysteries left about this, so I feel like a full teardown is maybe in order. There definitely could be some cleaning with all these chips there. I don't know if this worm gear is supposed to be have that much backlash. I mean, it seems crazy, but maybe it's a matter of driving this thing in. There's a bronze ring, retaining ring, or it presses in there and keeps it in place. I wonder if it kind of wiggled out, or it's supposed to be that way. So I'll just take this stuff all off and throw it in the parts washer. I have a set of half nuts that I put them on the replacement. I bought them new, and they were too tight. The jib was, it's like a fixed thing. But now I feel like I know a little bit more about what I'm doing, and I can make the right kind of adjustment or make a new gib. I wonder if, no, I don't know if I don't think I made that shim, but just keep tearing it down. Or that's a spring washer there. There's that spring that keeps the Keeps that lockout piece engaged. Oh, that's fancy. There's a set screw, and then there's a set screw underneath it. Now, why that would be, I think this is holding that bronze ring in place. Oh. It would help if I use the right set of pliers. Oh, yeah, I should stop pounding. This can't come out until this comes out, so. So this idler tumbler thing, there's no access point on the back of it to push it out, and there's a tapped hole. You can make a little puller. There it goes. I think this is not going to fit in the parts washer, but I certainly can spend some time cleaning it up. And I've always hated this sight glass. I wonder if I can get one to replace it. But yeah, it'll be nice when it's all back together. I poured this stuff in and I started handling it with my bare hands, and I was like eating away the skin of my fingers. I'm like, this stuff seems really concentrated. So I read the label, and it's like supposed to be for general cleaning it's 1 to 200 parts, and for extreme cleaning it's 1 to 20 parts. So it's a little bit too intense. This plunger, I lost the spring, of course. It was the thing I told myself I wasn't going to lose, but now it's gone. I didn't realize this, but it's actually a lockout thing where when that gear is one position or another, it prevents this thing from turning. So it's yet another kind of like safety lock mechanism. So I think the first thing I'll do is make this little spring and then start building this thing up. That all has to fit into this face here, and all of that gear selector stuff is going to kind of grow on the end of that. Okay, so I feel like I'm going to start with the heart of this, where this goes in there, big lock washer, and then there's this nut that I think tightens things up. I guess that's just holding this gear on. In which case I think I could just put this on like that. This goes in here, and then this is going to go in there like that. I might be wrong, but I think this is symmetrical. It just kind of floats in there. I felt like there was a lot of backlash on it when I was taking it apart. There's this little divot here, and that divot should align with this the set screw that's going to go in here. There you go, you can actually see the seat for that set screw. Assuming you want some kind of end play here, so put this on temporarily. Now I'm going to work on the half nuts now. This would be the half nut shaft. There's a little spring in there which I didn't take off, just kept it with it. But there's a collar which I think can set the end play on both sides, or where this shaft resides. This one. Now there's a spring washer that goes here. I think it's this guy. They want there to be a little tension on that. That's kind of nice. I'll just tighten that for now. These are the old half nuts with the chunk popped out of them. It wasn't my finest moment, but I'm pretty sure that this thing fell off. Okay, I'm totally sure. I dropped this whole apron when I was taking it apart and putting it back together some years ago when I was working on other stuff. But it fell on the ground and popped these off. I did order these new half nuts, but I remember at the time, for some reason they didn't fit, or I don't know, but they're fitting now. The one with the oil hole goes on the top, but these channels here are just really rough in the machining. I don't know if maybe your lathe is different, but I was roughing this together, and I did it with the shim, and I thought, oh, this doesn't really need to be shimmed because there's already a lot of play in here. I thought the way this is designed, this should be able to be adjusted or shimmed so that there's no play at all. Like, it should be nice and... But this is where I'm kind of disappointed in the overall design. This should have like a pin or something. But, you know, this is as tight as that gets, unless I start shaving this jib down, this dovetail edge. This one will be loose. This one's pretty tight with a little bit of play. But because there's no accuracy in the way this thing is located, in terms of its side to side, you kind of left with this really sloppy arrangement of parts, where that part of the apron is now assembled. So about this spring, this clutch, there's 6 balls in there, and there's a spring plate on either side of it, and this is kind of like the adjusting nut that puts, you know, whatever that preload tension is on there. If I tighten this even just a little bit, it gets like that. If I just go like a half turn, I can't break it free anymore. Like I have to back off quite a bit to get it to pop. When I disassembled this thing, this was just like mad tight, so I guess I'll just tighten it up again and fold one of these tabs over and then put it in. But this is the shaft that, this is kind of like, for want of a nail, the kingdom was lost. Like, I put a new bushing in here, and basically the reason it was slipping is because there's a circlip on this side and a circlip on that side, and the circlip on this side fell off. So it wasn't driving into its destination. It was just kind of slipping. But I replaced the bushing and pressed it in. It seems like it's a pretty good fit. It's not like super duper accurate, but it's way better than it was in terms of how much it rattles and twists. So I'm going to start trying to get this piece into it now. This shaft has this little pocket for the set screw, and this shaft moves this way on that shaft. So this actually goes in, and if you look here, you can locate that set screw hole. So you should be able to put, you're going to have to put this gear, the faced end of that brass goes against the cast iron. You can't put that in until you put these on. Okay, this is like one of the hardest assemblies I've ever done. But I think I've got it. This shaft, this last gear, which is called the dog gear assembly, that can just sit in its like counterboard face there. Then you got a thrust washer, then there's a snap ring there in its groove. Then there's a thrust washer on the other side of it. And then you can put, this all has to kind of go in together because you have to put the gears in, then slide this shaft in. And slide this out down to its face. So that engages like that. This is the tricky part. There has to be another snap ring ready to, good God. Okay, so it's doing the thing it's supposed to do. It just, that retaining clip is not in its home position yet. So okay, first I'm going to get this shaft to kind of stay put. Then I can see how that kind of isn't as scary once you realize you can withdraw it that much. Okay. A little lesson in disassembly. If this like locking, like safety lockout fork, if this is removed, this little guy goes up against the flange of that. Usually it's kind of pressed all this way. This is all kind of compressed. But if you take this out when you're disassembling it, you'll be able to draw this whole thing back. You'll be able to see the kind of inner guts of where that snap ring is, and you can much more easily disassemble it because you have suddenly have all this clearance. You can use it like, you don't have to make custom snap ring pliers and stuff. So this guy goes here. And there's a Woodruff key. There's a collar that fits here. where they're supposed to be and where the end play, or how much end play would be set. But for now, because there's another collar back here, you want this to be in the right spot, and you also want, that's the carriage drive. When this gear is here, that's when the carriage is being driven. Set screw. It's probably not that much that you would adjust it this way, but this is the pinion for the hand wheel. Connects with this whole system of driving the carriage, manual drive. So put this second key in, the second set screw in. These are two set screws, one stacked on top of the other. It feels like there should be a plug here. There's definitely a plug here, and I lost it. I don't even remember seeing it or anything. So I think that's something maybe I can make on a lathe. It's getting there. So there's this little idler gear assembly that sits right there. And this is the shaft that holds it in place, but I can't get that in there until I have to remove this thing again. You know that this is the one that holds the idler because, well, first of all, it's got one groove in it, and it's also got this little spliny end so that it grabs the hole. It's just a retaining ring. Is it this one? Yeah. This idler gear's, I think it's pretty worn out. These are kind of loose and wobbly, and these shafts are not swaged. I don't know what the word is for that, but they're kind of punched so that they expand, and then it's not really a serviceable thing. I mean, maybe it is. I guess I could, if I had a lathe. Alright, this is like a miniature version of this much more difficult puzzle, but you have to put the shaft in, then put the retaining ring on, and then you can keep going. You can't put the retaining ring on and get the shaft in. But there's supposed to be a thin washer here, I think, but I don't have anything anymore that's that thin. And I tried putting a regular washer in there, but I think it's too... You want this to seat properly against the side of the housing. I think that's right. Then we have this shaft. It's the only shaft left. I think the short side goes here. The short length before you put the spring clip on. Yeah. That makes sense because there's a set screw mark here. So when I look at all this stuff, and just this idler gear is so, I don't know, flimsy, it's worn out, and if you have the jibs set on your compound really tight, you can just see how hard this thing has to work to push it in and out. This might be a little tough to see, but this plate with that scoop out of it rides there. It pushes that gear back. And this has to go here. Should be a washer here. What it needs is if this stop wasn't here, it would always engage, and it would always be like, it would never be in neutral. I think that just seated itself in the groove there, so something about that whole gear train is just so unsatisfying Just the amount of play. I don't think there's anything I can do about it though. The gear stop, you want this to be not touching that gear when it's in the carriage drive, but you want it to just tap against that face of that stop when it's in neutral. This is that special shaft for this. It's kind of like a lockout arm. This side. Alright, I think this is back together in a pretty good spot. So, here, there's that pin. You want to adjust the eccentric over here. You can't really see it right now, but there's an eccentric for the half nut lever. You would actually probably want to adjust it so that at its rest position the pin is like that. When the half nuts are engaged, you want it to move it a little further forward so that it's kind of on it like goes up to that plateau, and now it's engaged. But it works right now. I think part of the reason it works is because that spring is so light. The only thing left to do is this pinion goes through the back, but there's a woodruff key, and there's a crank, and there's a lock nut. This thing is trashed, but makes this size. I'm gonna just put this in temporarily. And there's a plug that goes back here, which is gone. I don't know what happened to it. Gasket maker, oil resistant, ultra black, Permatex ultra black. A little less gloppy. I don't know. There's that shear pin. This is the gearbox here, and this is the drive that comes out of it, and there's a little brass shear pin in there. Some people use aluminum, some people use copper. Judging on how it sheared when it loaded up like that, when it really encountered a lot of resistance, I think that I'm going to try to make another one out of brass because it seems to be the right material. I remember having to make this. I think somebody put like a common nail in there. This is 120, so this must have been drilled out at some point, but I'm going to look for some stock, see if I can make this again. Okay, that's good.